Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Super glad to be back. Good morning to you again, and we are back on another very scintillating edition of the program Morning Spring, live from Western Spring Television. It's a Super Monday where the hustle and bustle. Then I know the usual saying that Eko Nigbag Bakuba on Monday, even Oshogbo, we know they carry last anymore. You need to see, even in spite of what's going down, the fuel subsidy removal, whereby so much cars are even not on the street. While I was coming this morning, I was like, I could even close my eyes and drive to the office, and
don't do that.
Then I feel probably I resemble Superman. But we wish you the very best as we proceed on another week. Here we are. Today is Monday, and I hope we all had a splendid weekend. I actually did, because it was a moment to really rest and rest walk. Welcome to Morning Spring. TUNDE, IDOWU is my name, at Irresistible TD on Twitter. Obviously, you can see this young man is here. Good morning.
Yes,
how are you?
Good to be back again.
No doubt.
This week. And definitely every morning present us with the opportunity to give live short again. The opportunity is there.
No doubt.
Perhaps there are things you couldn't do yesterday or last week.
Yes.
Now that you are awake, that you are standing, is another time to give it a shot again.
Yeah.
As they say, as they say, tomorrow never dies.
No doubt
tomorrow
about
starts
it.
from today. I'm talking about the weekend. I had a smooth weekend as well.
Really?
Of course. Time to reflect, to rest, of course, to worship, and then to reach out to family as well. And speaking about reaching out to family, I think this is the time for us as a people, especially in this country, to reach out to one another. To
I agree.
Check on people.
I agree.
So many persons are going through things.
Absolutely. I agree.
I saw a picture, I don't know, maybe you've come across it, quite humorous, with somebody was shown with smoke around the head. Definitely it's a make-believe kind of picture, but the message in that picture is just the fact that so many persons are going through so many things, and at this time, just be understanding.
Absolutely.
Don't try to get people angry unnecessarily, because many persons are just a step away from snapping out.
Absolutely.
Because of the economic situations. But then, as they say, there is always another time. So I'd like to tell our viewers today as well, you have the opportunity to give live a short again, and let me promise you, it's going to be an interesting show this morning. It's a packed one, and definitely you'll be the better for it. I welcome you to this Morning Spring for today. Femi Ojo is my name. You can join me on Twitter at FEMI Ojo Live.
And definitely, you know how we do it. We'll check out some of the headlines making the rounds from the dailies. We have quite a whole lot of them, and quite a whole lot of stories making the rounds from the dailies that we have with us here. And in the course of this program, we will definitely sit back and talk to somebody concerning something that's in the course of the weekend. It's beginning to take another dimension, and we just hope, we don't turn this country ablaze. We should be tolerant of ourselves, no matter what religion, no matter what political party affiliation in which we are this moment in time. We should be able to tolerate each other in the best of ways, in the best of form. Do you understand? So let's see what it looks like, and let's enjoy the ride together. We'll kick off very shortly when we begin to check out some of the stories making the rounds from the dailies this morning. You can definitely follow us on all our social media handles. We are live on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can get to watch this live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. When we return, we'll go straight into details making the rounds from the papers. On behalf of our very humble selves, we'll say good morning, and we'll be back.
Tested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
The 1914 Amalgamation Treaty is synonymous to the birth of Nigeria. Frederick Lugard, a British army captain and an outlaw who struck gold in Africa, became the instrument used by destiny to make it happen. The amalgamation of Nigeria was designed for economic reasons by the colonial administration to offset Northern Protectorate budget deficit by Southern Protectorate surplus returns. The amalgamation had ad initio created imbalance in the economic political structure of Nigeria and was responsible for the persistent hiccups in the efforts to forge a united country till today. Nigeria's amalgamation was labeled as the mistake of 1914 by native northern conservatives who neither wanted it nor contributed anything significant to its sustenance. Western Springer Television identifies with Amalgamation Treaty of 1914 as a watershed event in history.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people, with their own way of life.
Okay, good to be back here, and let's begin the show this morning, as we've got quite a whole lot to discuss with you from the headlines making the rounds this morning. Femi?
Of course. We have a couple of headlines to review today. We have The Punch, The Daily Trust, The Guardian, the nation for this morning. Very, very interesting topics today. And let's kick it off from the Punch. On the front page, you have governors plan cash transfers to poor household. Dump Buhari's list. Governors plan.
No, here we go. The Punch newspaper this morning is the pages of the one newspapers. Workers kick as governors borrow 2.2 trillion naira from banks. Right? You got and look at that rider on that story there. It says governors borrowing spree has left states poorer. Pensioners, workers lament. Other riders associated to that story says governments must avoid short-term borrowing that may harm state finances. Done once. Looking at this, the speed at which our leaders, governors, the federal government borrowing spree. We just heard about $800 million US, about 500 billion naira to be spent on cash transfer for palliatives for 12 million households. Now, there isn't. The point Nigerians are making here, it comes to this level that we are, as the governed, we are suffering when these borrowings come. They tend to borrow, they tend to save it for themselves. They tend to stash it somewhere for themselves. A former governor of Delta State a couple of years ago, who was arrested and locked up in the UK for fraudulent activity, looking at the amount of money that was stolen and there, looking at this moment in which we are now, that workers kick as governors borrow 2.2 trillion naira from banks. If 2.2 trillion naira is circulated into the society, you and I, as citizens of this dear nation, will feel the impact if it is put into judicious use. Health, security, road, so many things. The citizens will, education. The citizens will have a fun-filled day. Look at the speed at which, after the removal of fuel subsidy, Nigerians are grounding. And it's affected everybody. And I keep saying this, that where it's not necessary, not like before, whereby if probably I want to get something at Onward Junction now, I probably will just drive there, go and pick up what I want. But right now, if I don't trek, I'll take 100 naira bike to that point. So everybody tends to calculate that, like, the rate at which this is going. And it brings me down to the point at which, when you see the convoy of our leaders, all these vehicles don't use water.
Of course.
They don't use probably just the breeze. Yeah. They are not on solar. They're on fuel.
They run on fuel.
And all these vehicles, that long convoy, at the expense of the common man, taxpayers' money.
About V6 engines, V8 engines.
I use two of my cars are like that, and I know what it means when you actually use those kind of vehicles. One little step on the pedal accelerator, you know what it means. But looking at borrowing 2.2 trillion naira from banks, I want to. In all honesty, I want to be like, okay, let's see what they want to use it for. But Nigerians are so used to that fact that when we hear them borrow such amount of monies, what do they use it for? Their cronies will come a little bit, put some into the society, and then they feel. But the larger chunk of all these monies are either stashed in the US, in Dubai, in Switzerland, and then you and I, as so much from every other Nigerians, we are still groaning. Yeah,
looking at the riders, governors' borrowing spree has left states poorer.
Absolutely.
Pensioners, workers lament, and then government must avoid short-term borrowing that may harm state finances. Done is one. Now, the headline says workers kick as governors borrow 2.2 trillion from banks. Now, I'll tell you this. Borrowing, when you listen to analysts, financial experts, might not necessarily be a bad thing.
Yeah, it is good. The US government borrows.
Yeah.
UK government borrow is good. But definitely when you borrow, my chairman could probably go for a big loan just to make sure that he gets things done right here on the long run. But when you borrow and you're leaving humongous debts for the state, for the nation, the citizens, definitely it impacts a very devilish lifestyle in their lives.
Moreover, with little or nothing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When you borrow this kind of money, the question is, to what end? What are those things that people can see? How does this impact the lives of the people? That's the situation. Now, 2.2 trillion naira is quite a huge sum of money. And you're talking about governance, so it's not just a particular state.
Yeah.
Now, many citizens, many persons have, you get to hear them say, when these governors, when these people borrow this money, now there must be a project or projects that should be on their mind.
Yeah.
What are these things? Infrastructure, just like you talked about. Education, health, this
security,
and that. Yes. And then after some time, you can measure the development that has been achieved through the borrowing of that money.
Absolutely.
But then sometimes in Nigeria, the reverse is the case.
It is.
Now, they get to, when these borrowings are done, you get to hear some X, Y, Z projects being, being projected to be done, but then after some time, those things are not there. Now, you get to hear something like everybody should tighten their belt. Now, some will tell you there is no even any belt anywhere again, because people are going through a lot.
Quite a whole lot.
TD, I tell you, for me, personally speaking, one of the misfortune that has befallen the people between the leaders and those being led is the want of trust. The trust deficiency.
Absolutely.
Even when there are good intentions from leaders, the followers tend to think, forget it.
Seriously.
These people have come again. That's the first default setting for most persons.
I agree.
Oh, is a time to siphon funds. It's a time to give to their opponents, just like you have said as well. Even the best of intentions are doubted by the people. So the trust deficiency is there. And the party now is that gap is not being closed as it is. Because when you hear, just like I said, that people should tighten their belt, they should go through the pains, they should just give it a time. But when you see your leaders living large
at the expense of the citizens.
So the thing is it only the indigents, is it only the citizens that should bear the pain? What pain will the leaders bear as well in all of this? So the workers are there just, just looking like, just like former governor of Fayoshe said humorously at a point, he said, I'm just there looking at them like a bat, seeing what will happen in all of this. So we get to see, we must not just be naturally pessimistic in all of these things. We hope for the best, especially at this critical time.
At this very critical time.
In our nation.
Honestly.
Yeah.
All right, so moving forward, from the pages of the Punch newspaper still, you see that picture there. You can see the Chief of Army Staff, Major General Tarid Lagbaja, and they're in Plateau State over the weekend, trying to encourage his men to probably quash the aspect of the headers farmers crisis in Mangu, local government area of Plateau State. We know very well what has actually been ravaging that state in the last couple of months. Plateau State has been boiling, and so much of arson, killings, and maiming, destruction has actually been the point there. Doing the press up, and I think that's a good one here. Thank you, Chief of Army Staff. Keep on keeping on the good one. Yeah, it's good for them. When the leader does certain things that is inspiring, you don't have a choice, but then you take a cue from him. I saw this yesterday. And I felt very, very sad about it. That's the story, the bottom story making the round from the Punch newspaper. On the bottom strip there, it says hashtag NSAS, 103 recovered bodies, not Lekki tollgate victims, says Lagos. Yeah. Now, there's been this controversy over the weekend. I saw that letter yesterday while monitoring one of the news stations in Lagos yesterday, Channels Television precisely. And there is a letter to say that Lagos government, they are trying to go bury some bodies from the NSAS thing, and Nigerians got to hear of that episode that, hey, so over 100 people were killed during the NSAS saga, and I just hope this ain't going to lead to another protest. But whoa, 103. Oh man, I feel so sad if this is true.
Yeah. Tunde, I think the Lagos State government made a clarification, or better still,
the federal government,
yesterday, and said that letter that you refer to talked about 103 persons, or bodies rather, not persons, bodies will be given a mass burial.
Absolutely.
When people got hoodwink of that, we are thinking, oh, so you mean these happened?
Yeah.
And you know, the back and forth between the Lagos State government and the NSAS protesters, you know, claiming that people died, especially at Lekki.
Yeah, tollgate.
Now, the controversy is about Lekki, and the Lagos State government said, yes, things happened. People were shot, injuries were, people were injured at that place, but then nobody died. And so when the people got hoodwink of that later, they were thinking, oh, do you mean bodies were evacuated? So why are you going to bury these bodies, 103?
Oh,
but later, Lagos State government, yesterday night, gave their clarification and said, no, these were bodies really from the NSAS situation that got very bad, terrible at some point. It started as a protest, a protest.
Yeah,
before it was hijacked by, you know,
hoodlums,
non-state actors, and the thing degenerated into chaos. And they said those bodies were bodies recovered from different parts of Lagos, from Fagba, from, you know, some on the islands, you know, those streets were named there and said those bodies were not from Lekki. So that it was just the handworks of unscrupulous elements, you know, the manner in which that kind of statement will be released. And so those were the explanation of Lagos State government. Said people died. It wasn't only at Lekki that tragedy
in and around of Lagos,
different parts of Lagos. You know, I could remember that, you know, when some buses, BRT buses that were packed, so many of them were touched, and then they were raised and burnt. Some courts, public buildings were vandalized. The palace of the Oba of Lagos was vandalized. So many persons so far at that time. So, but the explanation of Lagos State government to cap it is the fact that yes, there were bodies, people died in some parts of Lagos, but it wasn't, and it didn't happen.
Absolutely. We just hope peace will reign in this country, and we'll get it right at a point in time. Moving on the red strip of the Punch newspaper for today, NDLEA seizes 3.7 billion naira tramadol at Lagos airport. Very sad. The speed at which Nigerians consume drugs, the drug abuse palaver that we've got in this country is something to be nervous about, and
it's worrying.
Very, very worrisome. I think it was sometimes last week I was on this program, and it was in the dailies where I think it was a truckload again of cannabis that was intercepted by the military again. I wonder, look at 3.7 billion naira tramadol. Wow,
that's a lot. That's a lot.
Further stories still making the round from the Punch newspaper. Ogun begins probe as 8 die after alcohol bouts. Yeah, I'm not going to say don't drink, but we should all drink responsibly. It's as well as honestly
responsibly.
Look,
of course.
I like to drink water, but the point is, some people. You take first bottle, second, third, fourth, and then you begin to mistalk. But as the normal language will go, misyan. But I look at 8 people die after alcohol bout. I that's senseless. I'm saying senseless because these are not kids. These are most likely adults, teenagers, adults. We should be able to think.
Of course.
If FEMI suddenly gets angry and FEMI slaps me and I wonder, FEMI, are you okay? And again, rather than engage in a physical brawl, I most likely will walk away. Because the end result, nobody knows. It's always the beginning one knows, but that end result where it could actually and eventually now lead one to.
Of course, you know, talking about alcohol, for whoever likes to drink, the line is, or the point is, know when to draw the line.
Yes.
You know, as they say in local parlance, know what your head can carry.
Absolutely.
Know your limit.
Yes.
And in fact, on most bottles is written, drink responsibly. Now, the moment you cross the line, and such person is under that influence, he or she is no more, you know, in charge of whatever happens. And then you see people possibly at a birthday party or wedding ceremony or event that has to do with alcohol, when they get intoxicated, then they begin to say things that perhaps when they are sober, they won't be proud of.
Yeah.
They begin to do things that even if those things are caught on camera, they will never be proud of it. So the point is, whatever you do, if you choose to do it, especially talking about the drinking of alcohol, know when to draw the line. Life is precious. Life is sacred.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. This is sad.
8 people.
Very sad.
On the top strip of the Punch newspaper, Senate gears up for ministerial screening. Awaits list this week. Nigerians are waiting, not just the Senate, Nigerians are waiting. We want to know who will be our next set of ministers at this point in time. Is necessary. We are waiting.
Of course.
No doubt about that.
Of course.
And dollar now 876 as forex shortage worsens. Who can actually send me some dollars now?
That's what, you know, the popular word now, whenever dollar and naira is being discussed, is floating.
Yeah.
You get to hear, it's floating. You guys wanted to float, now you're floating. And then, you know, speaking about the ministerialist, the story that you read earlier, some Nigerians are nervous. Some of them are excited to see. Some of them are hopeful. And some of them are like, okay, maybe the same set of people that you get to hear. Okay, but then the good thing is there is a law that mandates presidents and governors to make public of their list of cabinet within 60 days of attaining power. So I think for the Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led government now, or the presidency, he has, I think, less than 4 or 5 days to do that. He must, as a matter of compulsion, send his list to the
Senate,
National Assembly. And of course, some names have been thrown around. So many lists has been seen, of course. But then I remember Mr. Dele Alake, that's a special advisor on information and strategy, saying, discard any list that you might have seen until it emanates from us. So we are waiting. I am waiting. I'm sure you're waiting.
Absolutely.
And our viewers are waiting.
Nigerians are waiting
to see what's going on. Now, looking through the daily today, State the Punch, we have Senate gears up for ministerial screening at wait list this week. So this is going to be quite a busy week at the National Assembly. Yeah. But today, I dare say, one thing that has gotten so many persons worried about screening is the fact that, are these guys really screened? Like screened?
You're taking me back to my program here on radio, our sister station on Saturday, the Rave Gang, and looking at what happened here in Osun State. It was stated it was an aspect whereby the commissioners that were just appointed now, like, just take a bow and go.
Yeah.
Nigerians are tired of that kind of lifestyle.
Just take a bow.
And majorly, we want to know who is going to be Minister of Information, Minister of Finance, Minister of this, Minister. Put their name, their portfolio just in front of their names. Let's know that this person is touted to be Minister of so and so. This person is touted to be Minister of the. So whatever question or questions the National Assembly members will ask them will be related towards that portfolio to know that what will you do. when you are the Minister of Finance, you are the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Works and Housing, not just come, oh, he's my friend, take it back. Nigerians are tired. Seriously. It's so pathetic that this is still happening. But I beg to say, one of the biggest things that can really give credibility to this administration led by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is if we get that thorough and proper screening of his ministerial list of ministerial nominees at the national, and they are screened, not just Tunde, take a bow and go. No, because we need to have a round peg in a round hole.
I remember in 2019, when of course 2019, when the screening was going on. You get to hear something like if a nominee has been a member of the National Assembly, all he needs to do, I think, is a convention, an unwritten rule, the screening. All that person has to do is just to come, take a bow, then he's asked to go because he's a friend of the House. And in fact, to make it quite, don't let me say worse, maybe interesting now, you get to hear if the nominee is a family member of a former National Assembly member or is sitting, get to hear, is a friend of the House by proxy. So you just take a bow and go. So something that looks like screening, the only thing that you could see that resemble screening is when you get to see a nominee that has no association with members of the National Assembly. So you get to hear a few questions here and there. But just like you said, Nigerians wants to see what these people carry. The capacity they hold and what they can do, talking about attaching the portfolio when they appear for screening. Getting the persons that will screen them, getting to screen them according to the portfolio. So the Nigerians will get to know that, okay, can this person do this thing at this point? Especially in this ministry. But then, so many things has been said about Bola Ahmed Tinubu that yes, he knows his onions, he has that's coming from his supporters, by the way, and that he has an eye for, getting the best, assembling the best. But so, we are waiting as a people, just like we said before.
I think it's crossed.
Of course.
Okay, but the last story making the rounds from the Punch newspaper for this morning. Ganduje intensifies lobby as North Central APC demands chairmanship slot. Yep. We'll keep you abreast, and we definitely know that all this, once it comes up, we will reel them out. We are waiting. Who becomes the next APC national chairman? Our fingers are crossed. Let's move on this morning quickly. Moving to Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust newspaper is next that we have, and the big bold caption that we have on that page of that daily, it says, amid shrinking reserves, concerns mount over Tinubu's directive on grains. Then a couple of writers associated to that story from Daily Trust newspaper. Strategic reserves dropped to 150,000 tons. That's credited to sources. And 24.8 million Nigerians risk acute hunger. WFP FAO report. CBN releases grains, says distribution begins today, and 5,000 trucks needed. To cushion the effect of subsidy, that's what the federal government is looking at. Mr. President directed that grains should be supplied to about 50,000 farmers. And if thoroughly these grains get to 50,000 farmers, that would do quite a whole lot in this country.
The multiplying effect?
It's definitely going to be a big-time multiplying effect. But my fear is this. The speed at which the herdsmen farmers clashes is that if they plant today and these things begin to germinate, you now have herders coming in with their animals to go feed on these things.
Talking about the security dimension to that.
Well, so it's a good move from the presidency, from the federal government, to give grains out, and let's see how this can help farmers here. But looking at what's been ravaging the nation, the farmers clashes, the headers-farmers issues in the last couple of years.
Especially the north-central part of the country, the northwestern part of the country. And I think that's why the security chiefs have been given mandate, at least that's what we have been told, that they should really do their best, the needed best, not just their own best, the needed best to secure the lives and properties of the people, because that's the utmost responsibility of any serious government in any part of the world. You must secure the lives of your people. And, you know, analysts have said maybe part of what is responsible for the food shortages we are witnessing is the security dimension, because when these guys go to their farm, sometimes they are attacked, they are killed, and so definitely no one wants to return to that farm, and so the shortages become very obvious. So when we're talking about giving farmers grains to plant, we must secure the lives of the people as well, secure the highways, because when the harvest is done, definitely they still have to pass through our roads to take these things to the market. And it's a whole lot, but let's be hopeful.
Let's just be hopeful. Let's move on here. Sanwo-Olu approved 61 million naira for burial of 103 #EndSARS victims. We just spoke about that from the pages of the Punch newspaper, and I guess this is common to definitely all the dailies that we are 61 million for, oh God.
Mass burial, 103 person.
All right. Yeah, this is one of the stories we intend discussing. It's still on the bottom strip of Daily Trust newspaper. IDOWU under fire over offensive video against Islam. It's one of the things we want to discuss in the course of this program. Religion plays a whole lot in our dear nation, just like in the political arena as well. Religion is very, very emphatic. It's very, very needed to be able to gather votes and what have you. But the space at which religion, personally, the space I feel religion is destroying so many things in this nation is large.
It's quite a sensitive topic.
It is. We will come into it. Let's move on. Still, Kano loses 2 ex-commissioners in 3 days. What's happening in Kano?
That's sad.
Oh boy. Now, Ogun student beat teacher who stopped exam malpractice. Did I just... A student beating a teacher?
Your sight is not between you. You have seen what is being said there.
What's going on? A student beating a teacher?
I'm not sure that's particularly new, because these things have been happening, but maybe because this has just been reported. Really, you know, there are centers called miracle centers. I'm sure you've heard something like that, in which some students go to write their SSC examinations, and then these miracle centers, the kind of centers to go to, you know, in Yoruba parlance is called parishe, meaning finish work, just the local literal translation of that particular thing. So when they get there, all they are doing is just give us the papers. The people who own those centers, they are there to do quote and unquote the needful. So all you have to do is pay, and then these guys go there, you know, to make sure they have a very good result. But then when you go to the conventional schools and then you see some of the things that are happening, this juvenile delinquency is on the rise. But then it's not just about a juvenile being delinquent in behavior, in character. It's the sad reality of our schools. Either being privately owned institutions or public government-owned institutions as well. The audacity, just like I see you shriveled when you saw that headline. Like,
seriously,
how can a
student
contemplate, even think about beating up a teacher? But that's the sad reality, the degeneration of values and ethics, the kind of thinking, the kind of audacity that will make a student to think about even talking back at a teacher.
Yes.
Talk less of laying your hands on your teacher to beat him or her up for quote unquote stopping exam malpractice.
Which is, so I don't know.
This story should be interrogated. What has really happened? Were these students given hope? one kind of quote-unquote hope before, and then possibly their hope have been dashed, and then they resorted to violence. So many things could have happened. But being that is me, is a bad precedent, is a bad kind of character and behavior that should be discouraged and should be probed as well.
Oh, goodness me. Moving on to the Guardian newspaper for today. The Guardian newspaper quickly as well has quite a whole lot of other headlines that we've not looked at, but let's just run through some of these headlines as well. From prison to correctional center, what has changed? Is someone who's visited that area will know. Then 105 Mondays of sit at home. Southeast loses 7.6 trillion naira productivity investment to agitation in 2 years. And I keep saying, I really will blame the leaders in the Southeast.
How so?
These are ways, there are ways you can call these agitators. But I think most of them fear the fact that if I go and say this to this man, the backlash, my businesses, my properties, they probably will come attack them and stuff like that. Nobody wants to lose anything. But looking at 7.6 trillion naira lost in 2 years, if 7.6 trillion naira had been pulled into the economy in the Southeast in 2 years, they would probably have gotten some better things to do. And I now fear the fact that where is this country going to? How can non-state actors, that's what I'm going to call this set of people, say, sit at home, and who are they? Are they security agencies? Are they government-owned set of people? Is it directive coming from government that, look, every Monday, you guys sit at home?
Definitely not from the from non-state.
Why this is happening? For 2 years, this is ongoing, and the leaders in the Southeast couldn't have found anything to do about this. It's sad.
Especially the Monday sit at home.
Yes.
And in fact, just like you said, the leaders should do better, especially in engaging the people, engaging the agitators. But then is a hydra-headed monster, that which has befell them, because it's a terrible thing. The Monday, it's the first working day of the week.
Yes.
And then you tell the people, sit at home.
Right.
But then the people have to, in a kind of way, obey. You know why? Many persons who have gone against such directive, we've seen videos, pictures of how they have been punished, quote unquote punished, by these agitators. And there's so many of them who believe if the government can secure us, we better stay in our homes so that we don't get to suffer casualties. But then, depending on who you are asking, so many persons will say the Frankenstein monster that was fed, that was raised, that was, allowed to get to this point is what is doing the damage at that time.
Yeah.
And I'll just like you referred to earlier, most persons of note don't want to publicly speak on the matter for the fear of backlash. And this is a sad thing to say. The thing is, most of them, most persons that possibly you speak to, especially across the Southeast, will tell you they want their Mondays back. They want their normal lives back. But then when you get to hear inflammatory statement from non-state agitators, there is one Simon Epa in Finland who keeps, giving order, giving directives on what the people should do. But then I think the security agencies are trying so many operations, this and that, has been taken to the Southeast to arrest this anomaly. Because, Tunde, trust me, it's an anomaly.
It is.
To wake up on a Monday and then you are told never to step out of the house. And this is not coming from government. There is no war, no riot, a full-scale chaotic situation, but just because an organization,
an agitation, and that's
said you people should not go out, and that has been upheld for quite a time now. And now a figure is being bandied around now: 7.6 trillion naira being lost in these 5 states. And and most of the heat state is, you talk about Imo State, talk about Abia states.
Yes.
Those states are really been suffering these kind of things. But then, trust me, if capabilities are to be returned to where it really belongs, I think a slap on the face of the nation, a sovereign state, and in which you have some group, a faceless, kind of association, and with somebody speaking and saying, you should not go out, and your people, even the Southeast is still part of the nation, called Nigeria. Even if there is agitation, either rightly or wrongly, these things should not happen. And I believe it should be attended to, because we can't go on like that. For me, as a person, as a Nigerian, I think it is a slap on the face of the people. And the government should really take responsibilities. And more importantly, the leaders there should make sure they do something about it.
Leaders at all levels, we call upon you, we call on you all. Please, let's do the needful. Nigerians need these assurances from you, not just for you to zoom around in air-conditioned cars and enjoy the ride.
And private jets.
And jets as well. But it's all good. We'll keep our fingers crossed, but you can rest assured right here from Western Spring Television, we'll say it as it is, and we'll let the world know that yes, you're doing well, or you're doing otherwise. It's still Morning Spring live from Western Spring Television. When we return, we will be joined by our guests via Zoom. This morning, there's quite a whole lot of things. We'll look at some of these major stories making the rounds from the dailies, and we'll look at the issue of religion. What does religion, how has religion played the good, the bad, and the ugly part in our dear nation concerning so many things at this moment in time? Using the Davido video as a cue this morning, the video is generated quite a whole lot of uproar, even from the Muslim sect as well. So let's just we'll look at that as a reference in the course of this program. But then, how has this impacted our lives in any way? When we return, we will definitely be joined by our guests via Zoom. Please stay with us.
The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies Berlin Conference as a major event in history.
Here are 5 amazing fun facts I bet you never knew about Christianity.
Number 1, there are over 2.4 billion Christians worldwide.
Amazing fun fact number 2. The Bible is one of the best-selling books of all time, with more than 100 million copies sold every year.
Most Christians believe in heaven and hell.
The Bible is the most translated book in the world, with more than 3,000 languages.
Amazing fun fact number 5. Most Christians throw science out of the window without realizing that most scientists are Christians. Hello, I am Pastor Steve Akinwumi.
And I am Dr. Adeoye Oyewole.
Join us as we highlight and discuss day-to-day issues pertaining to the day-to-day living of every Christian.
Issues in Christendom shows every Sunday on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
Funmilayo Ransom Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Funmilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransom Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Funmilayo Ransom Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela and Be Ololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born on 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Western Spring Television identifies Funmilayo Ransom Kuti as a watershed character in history. Ahmadu Bello, a Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history.
Turn it up! Is pulling out all the covered because your girls got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolate.
Èdè Yorùbá jẹ́ ọ̀kan lára àwọn èdè tí wọ́n ń sọ ní lónìí. Ètò akọ́mọlédè ló ń dé sójú ìwòran yín láti iléeṣẹ́ móhùnmáwòrán WSTV ìkànnì 150 channel 190 lórí StarTimes.
Bẹ́bíró bílẹ̀mọ̀dàwòrò kọ́ọ̀dẹ́ má dìbò sí. a ṣe gbé ètò yìí kalẹ̀ láti lè jẹ́ kóníkálùkù fi ṣe òdiwọ̀n ìdílé wọn. òtítọ́ ọbẹ̀ ni pé kò sí ìdílé kan tí ò ní ìpèníjà àti ẹ̀. ṣùgbọ́n àtẹ́lẹwọ́ ẹni la fi ń tún ẹni ṣe. àti oníkálùkù bá kọ sí ìpèníjà náà ìdílé yóò sọ bí ìdílé yóò ṣe rí. Bẹ́bíró káfinúkọ